What's up, Yinzers, Yinzettes? Welcome to the holiday edition of the PUCKS where we're going to talk a little bit of holiday themed things. Maybe what the Penguins might ask Santa for Christmas. Obviously, you're going to hear our trending up, trending down. And, we're going to talk about the impact of a pretty major injury as well. So stick around. We'll talk about all that, much more. Nat? I was a little early on the video there today.
I was a little late. I waited 1, 2, and then I didn't hit on 2. I hit like half a beat after. It's fine.
It's
Happy
fine.
holidays
Yeah.
to all.
Happy holidays. We hope you're all doing well out there. As you can see, I hate Christmas and I hate the holidays. Clearly. But hope you're doing well. And I'm Kelsey Surmatz, one of your hosts, as usual. I write for the Hockey News, Pittsburgh Penguins site. You can find me on X at Kelsey Surmatz4. Same thing on Threads, and same thing on Blue Sky without the underscore. And I'm joined by my co-host, again as usual, Hannah Kirkel.
Hi guys. Like Kelsey said, I'm Hannah Kirkel, as usual. Hasn't changed yet. I'll get back to you on that. You can find me on Twitter at H_Kirk6. You can find me on Blue Sky at HKirk6, no underscore, and I'm on Threads at Kirkel6. And I contribute to the sporting news.
Solid. All right. Well, we'll just jump right in here.
Let's.
Yeah, the Penguins had yet another good week. They're 7-2-1 in their last 10. And obviously we came to you last Wednesday, and then since then, the Penguins have compiled 2 wins, 1 loss, and it started with an onslaught in Montreal on Thursday last week.
Woo-hoo-hoo.
That third period was like nothing I've ever seen, I don't think, from this team.
The funniest part about this game is that it didn't look like an onslaught for the first 2 periods. No. It looked like the Penguins were maybe going to blow it. Or like it was going to go to overtime, as things often do when the Penguins and the Montreal Canadiens are involved. But that's not what happened. So they entered the third period. The Penguins were up 3-2. They had goals from Raquel and 2 from Rust. And the Canadiens got 1 from Suzuki and 1 from Yoel Armia. And what happened in the third period, Kelsey? You wanna enlighten us?
I'm still not exactly sure what happened in the third period, but whatever it was, whatever the Penguins ate between second and third intermission, I'm not sure what they feed them in the locker room. Poutine, whatever it was. It really fueled them because they scored 6 unanswered goals in the third period. Raquel got his second of the game. Letang added a power play goal. Villiers got on the board at home in Montreal. Rusty got his hat trick right after that. And then even Matt Nieto and Noel Acciari got on the board. So that was the kind of night that the Penguins were having.
Their names are Matt Niet, Goal, and Golachari.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry about that. Yeah. But Matt Nieto, there was a lot of talk after the game, too. That was his first goal in like 406 games, I think.
Not games, days.
Or day, yeah. Oh my God, good correction there.
No, don't worry. I actually read it as games first myself, and then I said, surely that cannot be true.
Yeah, I think that's like the default, but you forget that Matt Nieto literally didn't play hockey for over a year. So
yes.
So yeah, 406 days for Matt Nieto, not days. The guys are really happy for him after, but it was kind of nice to see this kind of onslaught from the Penguins. We saw it at times last season. I'm sure you recall the San Jose game last year where they just lit up the scoreboard. The Detroit game 2 years ago, they won, what was it, 11-1.
Something like that.
who knows at this point? But yeah, I mean that one, the Penguins have been playing well. It's still an outlier, as you said. For most of the game, it was pretty close. I mean, it was a pretty tightly contested game. And then the Canadians kind of just fell asleep at the wheel in the third period. I don't really know what happened.
I feel like, Raquel got his goal with, what was it, like 5 minutes into the third or so, and then Letang scored on the power play, and then the Canadians gave up, but the Penguins did not, because they would score 4 more goals.
Yes, and I mean, it's another example of seeing that bottom 6 scoring that they've been getting, and that's been a big story. And we'll get to that a little bit for this past game on Tuesday. But moving on to Saturday, they went into Ottawa. Ottawa was coming off of a back-to-back, and Linus Ullmark had just started the game before in Carolina on Friday night. Anton Forsberg was injured in warmups, so Ullmark had to go. And I mean, that was the story really in Ottawa on Saturday.
There was an e-bug.
There was an e-bug,
but there was one in the building.
There was, and it got pretty interesting because Forsberg was not available, obviously, hence the e-bug situation. But Ullmark pretty much stood on his head the whole night. I don't think it was the Penguins' best effort necessarily, but they still brought it to overtime. It was 2-2. Brady Tkachuk gets the overtime winner. And I mean, there's not really too much to say about that one. I think there were still some positives to pull from that game. And the Penguins didn't get any power plays either, so special teams didn't really factor in much. But yeah, really, really great performance from Ullmark, and you can clearly see why Ottawa traded for him over the summer.
Yeah, the two stories that came out from this game were the Marcus Pettersson injury, and some comments made post-game by Penguins starting goaltender Tristan Jarry. Those were the stories that came out of this game. The rest of it was
It was a game.
It happened.
Yeah. And just jumping to that for a second. So I'm sure I don't know if you're active on social media. We hope you are, and we hope you're following us. And we hope you subscribe to us too. But there was a little bit of an interesting quote by Jarry, and I was actually in that scrum too. Or no, I wasn't in that scrum. I'm sorry. But
that scrum was in Ottawa.
Yeah. I'm mixing it up. I'm still sick, y'all. So just bear with me here. But I believe Dan Kingerski of Pittsburgh Hockey Now asked the question, and he basically just, asked if they were going to review that goal and just what his thoughts were on the goal. And I'm pulling it up right now, but this was his exact quote, and about Batherson's goal. He said, "It's a shitty goal, honestly. I don't know how you take that out of the game, but I don't think you should be allowed to stand there and let the guy shoot it off you. I think it's almost impossible to stop. Like, he gets position on our player and he just parks himself at the back post and their guy just shoots it off of him. It's a tough play, and I think it's not part of hockey." Hannah.
How many goals has Sidney Crosby scored where he is doing exactly that, where he's standing at the far side of the post, he gets down on one knee, and somebody shoots it off of him into the goal? How many goals? Yeah. We should just take them away. He hasn't hit 600 yet, because those goals aren't a part of hockey, therefore they shouldn't count, right? Is that how that should go?
I believe so. So I think we'll get to this in a second, but Evgeny Malkin's goal probably shouldn't have counted.
No, it should not have. Yeah. That is an excellent point, Kelsey. That is such a good point.
Just
I understand bizarre. From a goaltending perspective, that goal is almost impossible to stop. What you should say is, that's almost impossible to stop. It's great when our team gets a break for it. It's unfortunate when their team benefits. That's all it is. That's not what he said.
That's all it is.
It
Yeah,
doesn't
and
really, it doesn't sit well.
it doesn't. It was I don't know. And I feel like the comment was a little out of place. Just because especially based on the way the Penguins have been playing, it's not like they've been losing games. And I'm not saying there's an excuse to say that kind of thing when you are losing games, but at least like those are the kinds of things you usually hear from. Well,
Yeah.
you don't hear that from people, but those are usually
No.
the kind of things you hear when a team's frustrated
No, you're
and they're
exactly
trying
right.
to.
That's the kind of quote you get out of like the Nashville Predators locker room.
Yeah.
Obviously, there hasn't been a quote like that out of the Nashville Predators locker room, but that's like something you would expect
Yeah.
from, especially since that wasn't even the question. The question was, were you guys thinking about reviewing it? It wasn't. Do you
Yeah.
think that goal should be a part of hockey?
Yeah. It was just bizarre. And I think Josh Yohe wrote a piece. It might have been yesterday, just talking about how there wasn't really reaction in the locker room to it. And I mean, that's understandable. I don't think that's something guys are going to dwell on. And he's mentioned that, Matt Murray kind of used to say some stuff like that to deflect blame and everything. And it's kind of just a mindset for goaltenders to just like, it might just be a mindset for goaltenders kind of just to move on, that they have to have like the short memory kind of thing and they can't really dwell on things. But
It's
like I
dumb.
said, it's just, yeah, it was still a bizarre thing to say. And you might hear some of those things coming out of the Rangers locker room right now.
God, I
The,
hope. Woo!
the Kaka stuff is getting really
Oh
interesting over there.
Lord,
Um,
this is a situation with the Rangers. It's like when your neighbors are arguing, and you can't not listen because there are some things being said.
yeah, there are. It's getting interesting over in New York.
Well,
And the
it's been
Penguins.
interesting, but it's getting
Oh
more
yeah,
interesting.
it's getting way more interesting, especially with the trade freeze coming up. And apparently Vancouver's looking to make a trade before the trade freeze too. So, but anyway, we're getting a little off topic, but I guess kind of connected to that. So Marcus Pettersson, as Hannah mentioned, was also injured in this game. He was designated as week to week with a lower body injury. He was placed on injured reserve on Tuesday. The corresponding move for the Penguins, they called up Nate Klerman from Wilkes-Barre Scranton, who has 1 goal, 5 points in 16 games. And, there were more offensive options available for them. But I think in this situation, when a defensive defenseman like Pettersson goes down, you kind of have to do a role replacement here. And, he's probably not going to see too many games, if any. But
Right.
I think it's more about filling the role here than
Yes.
Trying to get, I don't want to say the best guy, but not necessarily your top performer.
The highest scoring guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But he kills penalties. He's a good shutdown guy. And probably a good, seventh defenseman to have on the roster in case anything would happen. But this is, the Pettersson situation is also going to be pretty interesting. Obviously, for the Penguins, he's been on the trade block. He's been high on the trade block on pretty much every single trade list you read out there. And he's still listed pretty high, but you hope that this week to week injury isn't going to keep him out too long. Because, just given the Penguin situation, obviously they can be in a completely different place a couple weeks from now. But you have to think that regardless of what's happening, and we can maybe talk about this a little later too, but regardless of what's happening, that's still probably a contract that they're interested in moving. So yeah, not only are they going to have to fill his defensive void in the upcoming games, they do have the holiday break and some time to, for everybody to heal, but it becomes that much more interesting on the trade front too.
Yeah. I feel like it might be good news that he was just designated as week to week. Sometimes you'll see NHL coaches say, "Oh, this is a long-term thing." He's out longer term, but it was just week to week. So, without trying to read into it too much, maybe the worst was avoided. I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, let's hope so. And I mean, I will say, at the game yesterday, I did see him walking around. He was in the press box and he was walking without, any aid. There wasn't any kind of crutches involved or anything.
No
He was
boot?
walking. No, he didn't have a boot. Didn't look like it anyway. So,
Okay.
so yeah. I mean, I think the optics look okay. So
Okay.
hopefully that translates to you know what we see on the ice in a few weeks. Hopefully, it's not out too long for the Penguins. But we do want to move ahead to Tuesday's game, and this is the one against the LA Kings, a thriller in overtime. The Penguins win 3-2, and I gotta say, I mean, they've played some pretty good games lately, but this was probably I don't want to even say the most fun I've had watching a hockey game for the Penguins this season, because I think the Calgary game still kind of stands out to me for that.
Canadians game. Nola
The
Chari.
Canadiens
Nieto.
game.
Come on.
Yeah, although like both of those were pretty fun games, but I think what was impressive about this effort in particular is LA is one of the top defensive teams in the league. And that didn't really stop the Penguins from having a good offensive attack, especially in the second half of that game. And it didn't start off so well because notorious Penguin killer Adrian Kempe scored 33 seconds into regulation. That is his 8th goal in 5 games, the last 5 games against the Penguins. He's just,
Yes, it is.
it's incredible, honestly, how much this guy loves playing Pittsburgh. So he scores 33 seconds.
He's crazy.
He is.
He just likes playing birds. He kills the ducks too.
Yeah, must be a bird thing.
Must be.
Must be a bird thing. But yeah, he scored 33 seconds into the first, but this is one of those things, again, on the first shot of the game too, we should note that Alex Nedeljkovic was the starter against the Kings on Tuesday, but still gave up the first goal in the first shot. It's quite remarkable that the Penguins do that with the frequency that they do.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand it. But anyway, so we've seen, again, the Penguins of old. They give up a goal that quick. They fold. I mean, we saw this time and time again at the beginning of the season, but that's not the team that we've seen in the past 10 games. Instead of folding, they kind of got committed to the details. They were committed defensively. They kind of matched LA in that sense, going forward in the game. Evgeny Malkin, I'm still not convinced that it was his goal. I've looked at it 5 million times and I'm still not convinced that he touched it. But a little over 6 minutes into the second period, Evgeny Malkin scores. Michael Bunting and him had a 2-on-1. Bunting kind of did this backhand flip that ended up hitting the opposite post. Malkin apparently got a stick on it before it hit Kemper and went into the net. So they tied the game. And then there was a little bit of a defensive miscue by Owen Pickering on LA's second goal. Alex Turcotte got his 4th of the season, kind of had a partial breakaway there. Pickering kind of just misread the play. He was beat to the puck, and then the goal ensued. Then, third period, Matt Grzelcyk finally gets his first as a Penguin.
Known goal scorer, Matt Grzelcyk.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, he has 16 points for the Penguins this season, which, I mean, all things considered, he's playing pretty well right now. He gets a beautiful feed from Crosby.
And that was kind of a snipe.
Oh, yeah.
Darcy Kemper, the LA Kings goalie, he was pretty freaking lights out all game. So that was a very good, well-placed shot from Matt Grzelcyk.
Absolutely. And, it looks like one of those nights that they weren't going to get anything else past Kemper, just the way things were going. But it was nice to see Grzelcyk get that. He thought that he had his first goal of the season a few games ago, but Raquel kind of sneakily tipped it with his leg and didn't say anything at first, but, ended up getting credit for the goal. So it's nice to see him get a goal like that. And like I said, remarkable feed from Sid. Who had a really strong game, by the way. I thought this was Sid's best effort of the season. He had 6 shots on goal, 12 attempts. he could have scored probably. Mike Sullivan even said he could have scored 3 goals in the third period alone. Yeah, so he was flying out there. And then overtime, Erik Karlsson kind of floats a puck towards the goal from the point. Rickard Rakell tips it. Game over. But just a really, really impressive effort from the Penguins. They matched the energy of the Kings. And this is a Kings team that came into Pittsburgh having won 7 of their last 8 games. So, they're getting these wins against really formidable opponents. So some of these wins have just been really impressive lately for the Penguins.
Yeah, what makes it more impressive is that when the LA Kings have a lead, they are very, very, very good at locking it down. Even if it's just a 1-goal lead, that doesn't matter. They are very, very good at completely shutting down and like stifling their opponent defensively. So the fact that LA went up not once but twice and Pittsburgh was able to answer back both times is fairly impressive. And obviously, LA did shoot themselves in the foot a little bit, but a win's a win, and the Penguins played well. So you've got to, tip your hat a little bit.
Absolutely. And as I said, I think in terms of it wasn't necessarily their best game of the season. I still think that belongs to Toronto. Probably would be my pick for their best overall game of the season.
I agree.
But it was just really impressive to see how they responded to that early adversity again, because once again, this is something that you wouldn't have seen from them early in the season. And it kind of just seems like their process is completely different in these last 10 games than it had been earlier in the season. They're, as I said before, and as you kind of mentioned, they were committed to the details. They're playing well defensively. Even players that we've seen make some glaring mistakes like Grzelcyk, those mistakes are being limited. So they're just playing better hockey, and they're getting to their game. They're forechecking well. They're pressuring in the O zone. They're playing a possession game, and it's really good to see from this team. And especially considering with Evgeny Malkin's goal, that was the first goal in 30. What was it? Second goal in 38 attempts, I think, out of 38 goals that Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin has factored on the last 38. Yeah. So before it had just been 1 in 38 for Malkin. I think Malkin had added that second. So they've only factored in, goal scoring.
Now I understand.
Yeah, I said that.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I said that in the worst possible way. I kind of
you were speaking a different language for a second. You slipped into Mandarin.
Yeah, it was. Look. I'm still getting over the sinus infection. I feel like.
Listen, I understand. I had that too. It was the worst.
It literally just clouds your brain. My thought was oh, okay, so Malkin had 1 goal out of the last 38 goals that the Penguins scored, and then he scored this one, so that was 2, and there was just not. It was not coming out of my mouth the way that I was thinking about it. Anyway,
it happens to the best of us. Really, it does.
It does. Sinus infections suck, man.
The worst.
My head's been beating for probably about 5 days. It's just been a constant headache. So, surviving though. So we're going to move on to the next segment. I think that's kind of a good segue for trending up, trending down. So,
as you may be not trending up, but some of the Penguins are.
Yeah, and I guess that's the real thing that counts. So,
who's trending up for you, Kelsey?
I'm gonna go with Sidney Crosby. So I mentioned it before, I was kind of thinking about going with Matt Grzelcyk this week because I do think he is playing a lot better. He's really contributing on the Penguins power play as well. But Sid has not scored a goal in 10 games. He's gone 10 games without a goal. His last goal was his 600th goal against Utah. Hasn't scored since. The thing is, the last couple games, the way that his game is trending, he's just on the brink. Like, it feels like the floodgates are about to open. He had that 3-assist game against Montreal, in that 9-2 win. His line combined for 11 points that game. And then he also had that, as I said, that beautiful assist on Grizzlies, game tying goal against Los Angeles. In his past 10 games, he does have 10 points. He has 5 points in his last 5, 10 in his last 10. And although he has no goals in 10 games, he does have 8 goals, 31 points in 33 games on the season. He also doesn't have an even strength goal in 13 games. And that's actually the third longest stretch of his career. And the only two that have been longer, there was 18 straight to open the 2015-2016 season. And then there was 19 straight from January 18th, 2007 to March 1st, 2007, where he didn't score an even strength goal. So, you know, it's not, I don't think it's problematic though, because even Mike Sullivan said today, you know, it'd be one thing if Sid, if Gino, you know, weren't contributing in other ways on the ice, if they weren't creating chances, if they weren't doing anything aside from, you know, not scoring. But the fact of the matter is, as I said, that game against LA was probably the best game I've seen Crosby play this season. I mean, he was engaged, he was locked in, he was forechecking hard. You can tell this guy wants to score a goal. I mean, he was like throwing everything but the kitchen sink at Kemper yesterday. So it's coming. He's going to get it. And also, too, I mean, you look at his line mates, Raquel and Rust. Raquel has 7 goals, 12 points in this 10-game stretch that they're on. Rust has 7 goals, 13 points in this 10-game stretch. His line mates are contributing. He's contributing. His line mates are scoring goals. He's going to get on the board here.
Well, you know, it's funny that you said that you almost picked Matt Grzelcyk as your trending up player of the week. Because I did pick Matt Grzelcyk as my trending up player of the week. So my trending up player of the week is Matt Grzelcyk. Listen, I know defensively he is maybe not the soundest defender out there, although the Karlsson Grzelcyk pairing was shockingly not so bad.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Like, they were both.
Yeah, I would agree.
In the defensive zone. I mean,
yeah, I didn't think they were bad at all against LA, and I thought Karlsson had a bit of a shaky offensive game, but
I agree, except for that pass in overtime.
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
But no, I completely agree. I honestly expected LA to put up 4 or 5 goals against that pairing. But they weren't on the ice for 1 goal against. They weren't. To me, at least, over these past 3 games, the Montreal game, the Ottawa game, the Kings game, Matt Grzelcyk has a goal and 3 assists. So that's 4 points in 3 games. He's getting it done offensively. And none of these points have come on the power play, which is pretty wild, especially considering how good he is on the power play. So all of these are coming at even strength. I mean, he's playing good offensive hockey right now, and he's not being a liability defensively like he may have been for a couple games this season. He is playing good hockey. He's currently got this stat where he has 1.36 assists per 60 minutes.
That's good.
That's not so bad, right? I mean, and then obviously scoring his first goal of the season last night against Darcy Kemper. He's trending up. That's all I got to say. Matt Grzelcyk is trending up.
He is. And I do want to just add one point. Mike Sullivan after the game, or I actually, somebody asked him about, you know, Matt Grzelcyk's game last night, and he said, I think one of Griz's best attributes is his ability to pass the puck. He helps us on our breakouts, and I think he's very good along the offensive blue line. Especially that last part. I mean, you see it on the offensive blue line. I think this is the reason he's so good on the power play too. There's not any hesitation. Like he knows exactly what he's doing out there. He kind of has good vision from the offensive blue line. He doesn't hold on to the puck too long. He makes quick passes. He's decisive. He gets pucks to the net. And that's exactly what you want out of a power play quarterback. And that's exactly what you want out of an offensive defenseman in the offensive zone. I mean, he's producing at almost the same clip as Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson this season.
Yep.
So,
and he's got one thing to his game that Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson don't. Keep it simple, stupid. He's not looking to overcomplicate things or looking for the perfect play. If he sees a play, he's going to make it.
Yeah. Yeah, so totally agree with your assessment there. Definitely trending up. And as you said, I think his defensive game's been better, and we'll see how that pairing shakes out with him and Karlsson for the next several games here. Could be a disaster next game. It could be fine.
It could.
It'll be interesting.
It could be great. That's the beauty of hockey.
There's high entertainment value with this pairing regardless.
That's what it is. It's going to be entertaining.
It will. All right. Well, that brings us to a couple players that maybe aren't trending up and maybe trending down.
Kelsey, who's trending down for you?
Well, being that the whole team's playing well, this was actually pretty tough this week because, it's kind of tough to single out players when everyone's playing well. And since we ganged up on Drew O'Connor last week, I didn't want to do the same thing this week. So my trending down is Kevin Hayes.
Ow!
Look, I'm not gonna honestly. Not playing is trending down in of itself. I mean, he's been scratched for past several games, and he started the season pretty well. He had 3 goals, 4 points in his first 8 games, but he only has 1 goal, 3 points in 14 games since. And honestly, when you look at the metrics and his role on the team, it's a mixed bag. Some of it's good, some of it's all right, some of it's not good. And I'll kind of get into a little bit here and just to prepare you for, I guess, the point I'm trying to make. But he is last in shots blocked per 60 at 0.28, last among all Penguin skaters. His takeaway to giveaway ratio is 3-8. He's actually been their best faceoff guy at 59.8%. Behind only Brian Rust at 60%. But Brian Rust obviously doesn't regularly take faceoffs, so he's been their best faceoff centerman this season. He's top 10 in expected goals against per 60 with 0.88. He's 8th in Corsi at 54%. He's 17th in on-ice goal share at 39.3%. And again, he plays on the 4th line. That's not all that shocking there. But he is 4th in on-ice expected goal share at 57.7%. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy between his actual goal share and his expected goal share. And then also, I mean, he's top 10 in, a couple goals against stats here. So he's 5th in on-ice expected goals against per 60, 8th in shot attempts against per 60, and 10th in high danger shot attempts against per 60. So honestly, a lot of these stats aren't terrible, especially for a 4th line player. He did come off an injured reserve stint recently. He's kind of, been in the mix with injuries this season, which probably hasn't helped him. But I think what's going on here with Hayes is just comes down to production. He's just not producing. And although, you could argue that guys like Nieto, guys like Achari aren't producing all that much either, they also kill penalties. And this kind of goes back to the, the Puljujarvi equation and some of these other guys that don't play on special teams. If you play on special teams, you're going to have a leg up in terms of being in the lineup. That's just how it goes. They need those guys for those situations. Hayes doesn't kill penalties, and he's not producing. So if he's not producing, he's not on special teams, and, he's deployed in that fourth line role, they're going to put guys in the lineup that can do those things, unfortunately. So I think it's just his production is trending down, translated to his playing time trending down.
Yeah, no, I can't find any fault with what you said. I kind of had a similar difficulty this week because, like you said, the whole team's playing well. It's really, really, really hard to single out one player that is not playing well. And like you said, because we both ganged up on Drew O'Connor last week, he will not be my trending down player of the week.
So who is it?
Well, let me preface this by saying if we had not both ganged up on Drew O'Connor last week, he still would be my trending down player of the week because I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel with this one. But bear with me.
All right.
My trending down player of the week is Phil Tomasino.
Ow! I have to say, I actually thought about that for a second,
okay,
like a
so
fleeting second.
Crazy. Okay.
You're not crazy.
So maybe
You're not
I
crazy.
won't get like hung, drawn, and quartered online. We don't know.
Yeah, I had some thoughts about Kasperi Kapanen a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far because I don't think Tomasino is lazy.
Yes.
Someone said to me last week, what is going to happen when Tomasino isn't scoring a goal a game? Well, that's not happening anymore. So some of his play, you kind of have to scrutinize it a little bit more. I'm still chalking this up to him, still getting used to the team, used to the system, used to his role in the system. Have you noticed how much he runs into teammates on the ice? Like he just bumps into them? That happens quite a bit. He bumps into Bunting, O'Connor, Gino, whoever's out there with him at the time. And like I said, it's clearly a system thing because he seems to have a high hockey IQ and know where he has to be. But he hasn't scored since that New York game. He's been good offensively. He's made some plays that just weren't finished. But I have to say that he's my trending down player just because when he's not scoring, you have to look at some of the things that you can glance over when he is scoring because, that's not such a big deal. He maybe misses a few passes in the neutral zone or bumps into his teammates or whatever. He's scoring goals. Who cares? But when he's not scoring, those errors stand out just a little bit more. So he's got to be my trending down player of the week, even though, like I said, that feels a little dirty and it feels cheap and it also doesn't feel completely correct. But here we are.
Like I said, I was thinking about it. So, I mean, and the thing to remember too, we said this last week, but this is, we're doing this on a week by week basis. So we're just basing this off the last 3 games. I mean, this isn't dating back. He was trending up right before that,
Yeah.
Matt Grzelcyk was trending down right before he was just trending up, This changes.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of it. But I do want to add real quick, when I said Kasperi Kapanen, don't take that necessarily the wrong way because I don't necessarily mean the bad side of Kasperi Kapanen. But some of the things I'm seeing from him, I think sometimes you kind of mentioned it and how he runs into teammates and everything. I think his skating kind of reminds me of him a little bit, just like his style of skating. And also just, I do think there are times in the offensive zone, he is a really high IQ player, but he's kind of done the whole stop thing a couple times. And, it's just a few of the little things, not necessarily. I'm not saying he is Kasperi Kapanen. I'm obviously, you hope for a better outcome than that. But, I hope it's not one of those things where, like Kasperi Kapanen, he looked like money on Gino's line, when he first came back over here, and then his game just kind of fell off a cliff. And that's why in Tomasino's case, you kind of hope a guy like this keeps putting pucks in the net with relative regularity, just because you don't want him to lose his confidence. This is a player that they, got from Nashville. He had 1 point in 11 games before he came to Pittsburgh, and he needed a change of scenery. Anytime you acquire these guys who need a change of scenery, you just kind of hope that they can find some consistency and regularity to their game. So hopefully it's not too long before he lights the lamp again. But also too, I have noticed, and I actually wrote this in my game notes, I do think there have been a few instances on his line where Gino's kind of losing pucks, losing a handle on pucks sometimes in the offensive zone. It doesn't seem like he's receiving passes super well right now either. Some of his reads are a little off. And I don't think that's not to suggest that Malkin's not playing well. I still think he's playing pretty well. But there's just some little things too, I just think, on their, forecheck and the cycling and the offensive zone that isn't just isn't going their line's way right now. So might be a little bit chalked up to that too. Just a lot of plays still on that line as still drives through Gino. So we'll see how that shakes out. Hopefully he can get back on the trending upside, But yeah, just I guess we're down to the last topic of the day, if I'm not mistaken.
I agree. I think that's pretty much all we needed to cover. Although before we do start, I've been sitting down this whole time. I do want to stand up and show off my ugly sweater a little bit because my mother gave it to me, and as we all know, I treasure gifts from my mommy. So sue me.
Who doesn't? Yes.
It's because I don't like Christmas. Moving on.
Hey, it's all good. There's kind of like a duality here, like, and I love it.
I'm the Grinch. It's great.
And here's my Yeti sweater. Might be a little bit of delay here.
Oh, it's great.
Thank you. And speaking of just the holidays and everything, I do want to add a little accessory for this last segment because
put it on, Kelsey.
I'm getting there. I do want to say, so this last segment, we're going to talk about what the Penguins should be asking Santa for this season. So let's go ahead and put this on here.
And then we can ask Santa Kelsey for things.
Yeah, we can ask Santa Kelsey. So Hannah, what do you think the Penguins should be asking Santa for this season, or Santa Kelsey?
Well, Santa Kelsey, thank you for asking. I know yours. I'm not going to take that. Me, there's kind of two things. On one hand, you want the Marcus Pettersson injury. You want that to be resolved. You want him back on the ice as quickly as possible for trade purposes. You don't want this to be a long-term thing. So Santa Kelsey, please heal Marcus Pettersson. I don't know if injury healing, if that's really in your wheelhouse. If it's not, I've got another one.
I mean, why not?
I'm sure the Penguins would like a consistent direction of team. Are they the team that consistently blows third period leads, or are they this team that's won 7 of their last 10? Which team are they? Let's see that with some consistency. So those are the two that I think the Penguins should be asking Santa Kelsey for.
Right. Well, we'll see if Santa Kelsey can provide any answers. I'm not sure that she can. Because this team has been a complete roller coaster this season, and even Santa Kelsey's really confused.
Santa Kelsey.
But well, I guess I can't really ask myself this question, so I'll just ask real Santa out there. I think, honestly, regardless of what happens this season with the Penguins, whether they end up in, the basement of the league or they end up in a playoff spot, I think the one thing that the Penguins fans, that hockey wants to see is Sidney Crosby get his point per game season's record. If I'm the Penguins, I'm asking for that because you know what? Not only does it help Sid kind of secure his legacy by finally having an NHL record to himself and a really impressive record at that. I mean, it says a lot that the great one, Wayne Gretzky, of all these untouchable records that he has, that there could be two players within this generation breaking two seemingly unbreakable records of his. So, on one hand, just for Sid and for his legacy and for hockey, and for modern hockey too, it'd just be really nice to see him get that. And even when he tied it last season, you could tell this is something he low key cares about. He won't say that, but he was proud of of tying that record last season, and I think it would mean something to him to break a record like that, especially since it's very signifying of his longevity in the sport and just how consistently good he's been for so long. But as for the Penguins too, they would love for Sid to start scoring at his customary pace. As I said before, he has 31 points, 33 games. He's a tick below point per game right now. But it'd be nice for him to go on a little bit of a tear and give a little bit of pad to that stat to make everybody feel better about that and to make the Penguins feel better because they do need that production at some point.
I wouldn't be too worried about that. His shooting percentage is so much lower than it has been for his entire career right now. So all logic suggests that it'll regress to the mean, right?
I hope so. And I would think so. And, Santa, please give Sid his point per game season. Think everybody just needs to see that.
I agree. And there is one thing that I would like to ask regular Kelsey. You can keep on the Santa thing though, because it's kind of growing on me.
It is.
It is. Okay. That's up to you. You can keep that on or not.
Why not? It's the holidays.
Kelsey, I'm going off the cuff a little bit here. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Well, you did suggest that to me as a story idea. I do want to give you credit. I have asked players that in the locker room. There has been a complete mixed response, and some great responses. But in my personal opinion, I kind of agree with what Alex Nedeljkovic said, in that it takes place at Christmas. It's a part of the plot, yes. Would I designate it as a classic Christmas movie? No.
All right. Well, this is where I've got.
Raquel said yeah, and that's kind of my answer. My answer is yeah.
This is where I've got to disagree with you. Yes, it takes place at Christmas, but also it taking place at Christmas is centric to the plot. It's the whole reason that Bruce Willis is in LA. He's going for the Christmas party.
Yes.
It's a Christmas movie.
See, so I don't entirely agree with Ned in the same sense with Harry Potter, because Harry Potter, like, you could take Christmas
Harry
out
Potter
of it.
takes place over an entire year.
Yeah. You could take Christmas out of it, it's still the same movie.
It's still Harry Potter. You can't take Christmas out of Die Hard.
Yes, that part of it I agree with. But I guess what I'm saying is that, when I think about the classics, I wouldn't put it like in the same category. It's not like obviously the Frosties and the Rudolphs, but I don't even think it's kind of where the Home Alones and the National Lampoons and stuff is. It's not quite there, but it's just a tier below. I don't really even know what else to compare it to, though.
It's not Christmas until Hans Gruber hits the bottom of Nakatomi Plaza.
All right, look, you're poking holes everywhere in my argument, so I got to give it to you this time.
I came prepared. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I respect it. I respect it. I know you feel passionately about this. So.
Oh, I do, and I am willing to go all night. We can go back and forth about this.
Yeah, you know what? But I'll give this one to you. I'll concede to you, because I'm kind of in that weird like middle ground. And like I said, the Raquel ground. Then yeah, But maybe it's a little bit more. When he said yeah, there's only one letter from no, and there's 4 letters from yeah. So it's kind of
yeah. Attaboy, Raquel.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm at the Raquel level for it. But all right, I'll take this off just to do our little last greeting here.
Unfortunate. I really was growing attached.
I mean, I can put it on, I can take it off.
Oh, that's up to you.
All right, you know what? Why not? So, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching, however you're consuming our content. We really appreciate you tuning in every Wednesday. As a reminder, being that next Wednesday is December 25th, we are not going to be holding an episode on Wednesday. I guess we should discuss whether or not we're going to have an episode on New Year's, but we'll discuss in the coming weeks. I don't really do anything on New Year's Day except watch hockey traditionally, so
I'm the same. I'm thinking maybe we could do on a different day though.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss 2 weeks in a row, but you also We'll figure this out. Don't worry, guys. We won't disappear for 3 weeks.
Yeah, we won't leave you hanging. We'll let you know. Follow us on socials. Again, I'm Kelsey Surmatz. You can find my stuff on the Hockey News Penguins website. I also have some good Christmas features coming up from the team, so stay tuned for that. You can find me on X at Kelsey Surmatz 4. Same thing on Threads, Blue Sky, same thing without the underscore. I should also mention for PUCKS and at, I believe on X it's PUCKS _N_ at. I can't see it right now. Oh my gosh, I forget. Yeah, never mind. It's PUCKS _NAT _pod on X, and it's the same thing on Blue Sky without the underscores. Hannah, as a reminder, where can they find you?
I'm Hannah Kirkel. You can read my stuff at the Sporting News in the NHL tab. You can find me on Twitter at H_Kirk6. You can find me on Blue Sky at HKirk6 and Threads at Kirkel6. I will also have a few Christmas features coming out, although they will not be Penguin specific. They will be part of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's always good to take a step back, look at the league. Maybe there's a lot of teams that should be asking for a lot for Christmas this year. So
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And good stuff. So yeah, we will see you guys after the holiday break. Be safe out there, travel safe, and enjoy your holidays, whatever you celebrate. And like I said, we'll be back at you sometime during the week of New Year's. We're just not exactly sure when. So thanks again for tuning in. We're signing off, and y'all, Yins, stay out of trouble in that.